said that old Brandy had something that I want back. And the way that she just claimed it, it was so powerful that I was like, oh.
She took her power back.
Old Brandon had something that I want back.
Yep, that's right.
In a way that, like...
It was very empowering.
That's
very empowering.
Yeah, because I think as I've learned different things, it makes me like, gosh, I'll pass on all the church stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm mad at the church community I had. Like, they're not in my life anymore. And I'm like, oh, old Brandon trusted people in a way that I want back. Like, and maybe that's not actually the thing. That's maybe some of it. But, like, I think I'm going to have to dwell on that question for a long time and saying to myself, Brandon, what are some things that you want back that
and I think for you guys,
you miss about yourself?
And I think for you guys listening, like, that's a beautiful question that we all should kind of take space in this episode, or maybe in the next week or two or day or two, to meditate on, like, what do you want back from who you were in your church community before it went to shit?
Hey, it's Brandon.
Hey, it's Chelsea.
Welcome to the Religious Dropouts Podcast, episode number 23.
Wow, so crazy. We're so happy that you guys are still here. We love you. Shalom. All the peace and blessings, because this episode is going to be really good.
Yeah, so we put out a poll on our Instagram.
Sure did.
Because Jackie and I had this debate, which inspired me being like, Chelsea, let's take this to the streets and let's serve it
to the streets.
And
only kind of streets I live.
I really thought there were two big contenders when it comes to breakfast meat champions.
Okay.
And it's bacon and sausage. I just think they each have a signature dish. Bacon and eggs goes on everything. Like, sausage has like biscuits and sausage gravy. I just think like they all have like breakfast staples that you can't have a brunch menu without.
Yeah.
And I think they're equally like formidable. So I just think they can fight. They can fight well.
And they really could, because here's what you guys said. Religious Dropouts Instagram, you guys came through. We posted the poll and 6% of you said ham. So to the 6% of you, you're disgusting. Do not listen to the podcast anymore, and we're blocking you from the page. Just kidding, JD. I know it was you because I can see the results, and that's disgusting. All right. Sausage, 31%. A contender, but at the bottom.
Weird for me.
And bacon, 62%, which was what I would have voted. And you would have went sausage.
Well, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
I like bacon.
Who doesn't?
I'd fight for bacon.
But and bacon fights for you.
I think sausage is just bomb. And what I would bring out if I had to really beat bacon.
Yeah.
Like, bacon might be able to bring out Canadian bacon, thick cut bacon, Applewood smoked bacon, but what sausage gets to bring out?
We could go on and on.
For the finale fight, sausage gets to bring out chorizo.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
not a fight I'm in, but
that's
bacon.
A fight. That's a done deal. Chorizo wins.
Yeah, well, it is not a done deal because you guys said that's not true. So I will say the breakfast champion meat king is queen, if you will, is bacon. So we love you very much, and congratulations on that. We'll mail your trophy in this week.
Sure.
And moving on to Big Mad Energy. This is interesting because this week's Big Mad Energy is a concept that you might say is a keyboard warrior, but it's a whole moment in itself. So
would you say it's a combo pack or a hybrid?
I would say it is a hybrid. I love that. So Big Mad Energy, if you will.
What y'all mad about now? Y'all really pressed over that shit? Wow. Big mad. Y'all got big mad energy.
So, Brandon, I it just felt like a really good interview. Like, I want to what are your skills for this position?
Thanks for having me here.
So when you think about pride, or when you think about like when people would say all Black Lives Matter, and you know the counterpart of that is
all lives matter.
Right. And so I feel like
Blue Lives Matter too.
You're right.
Those are both like popular comebacks
on
that. Yeah,
you're not wrong. There are two. So during Pride Month, there's something I think that's like that, right? Like, what's the counterpart of like Pride Month? Like, celebrate the LGBTQ plus community. And then the counterpart's like, well, what about straight people? Right? Like, You know what I mean? So the reason that I think, kind of collectively made the decision that this was a Big Mad Energy moment and not a keyboard warrior is because although also a keyboard warrior, this is something many people are mad about.
A national conversation. Yeah.
100%. So without further ado, my Facebook post was, you are loved, you are accepted. And then it's just a picture that says National Coming Out Day is October 11th. And that's all you can read in the caption. And I think the rest of it was like, you are safe, your stories are held, or whatever. You know, the religious dropouts, you always
have things to have. Safe people.
Definitely. Yep.
Stories held.
Yep. At the religious dropouts, like, this is the type of people that we are. That's kind of what the post said, right? So I just shared that to my Facebook story. And somebody commented on that, which they can message you like on your, swipe up type of deal. And it says, just saying, don't they, which you mean me, don't we, get the whole month of June? So I ask you, as I pull out the queer agenda for yet another update, hey, homos, I'm just kidding. But hey, my friends and my fellow queer family, do we get the whole month of June? Let us know what you think. Ready for that Instagram poll? But for real, all jokes aside, this really actually, I said to Brandon the night that I got this,
right?
I said, it actually does kind of hurt now that I'm like out in the community authentically as myself, identifying with that community. Now you don't get to say things to me like, don't they? Every time you say that, you're talking about me because I am now out in public, a part of that community. So now you're not just attacking people that I love in a group that I ally with. That is part of my identity. And so I've noticed a different pull of emotion seeing that stuff, and it's less anger and more sad.
Yeah.
But this too shall pass,
I have a couple of responses. I think one is super silly because it's 0.08 of the month either way. Do you know, or of the year?
Of the year.
0.08.
0.08%. Yeah. That's great. We should have responded to that.
Shoot. That's not even true. It's just 8%, y'all. I didn't times by 100 when I did my quick maths. It's only 8% of the year either way. So it's really funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really funny that she would be like, what? One more is really too much more.
I know. It's like, would you say that if your boss was like, or, not your boss, but like if your pizza place was like, well, we'll give you an 8% larger pizza. You'd be like, yeah, that's absolutely nothing. Like, no, thanks. So it's interesting. But then when it's spun in the sense of like, is it like, don't you get the whole month of June? Yeah, this extra 8%, like you said, is such an embarrassment.
And what do you think there is a council of national days, and the queers sent like a representative, and the blacks send a representative, and
Indigenous
the
people weren't invited.
And then they're all, and the straight people come, and they all arm wrestle for how much of the year they get.
Yeah. And oddly, somehow straight people get pretty much the whole year.
Right.
So like
the Christians come.
Weird.
And I don't see anyone swiping up on the Christians when they ask for Christmas and Easter.
I agree. Right. You're right. You're so right.
And Advent.
Right.
I mean,
then you better start swiping up on Ash Wednesday. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Big Mad Energy. So.
Yeah. And Fat Tuesday too.
Yeah. Wait, where do you come off thinking you get a day? My gosh. So we thought when we were thinking about what we've been doing this weekend, we've been at the Evolving Faith Conference. Look at us. We're twins. See?
I'm sorry. Amazon gets 4 Prime Days too now. So
we weren't ready. And that's also true, but I love those. So stop, because that's too far. Okay. Amazon, please don't take your Prime Days away. So
we're both wearing the same t-shirt
because we're cool AF, obviously, but, and I want to just say that we're giving you kind of the top 3 conference moments for us, because we were kind of having this conversation about when you talk about things you've done and you always say like, what's your takeaway? And it's like, listen, I don't know yet because it just happened, but I
recommitted my life to Christ.
Like every camp I've ever went to, you know what I mean? But it's like we don't necessarily have a takeaway yet. At more of, we had moments that really changed the game for us in this season. So I wondered if you kind of wanted to take a minute to share, Brandon, like out of this Evolving Faith Conference, which is really a conference for ministry leaders, ministry churchgoers, or not ministry churchgoers, churchgoers, people maybe that were in ministry that have left, anybody that kind of still has some sort of affiliation with faith, but has kind of walked away from the institution almost of religion, but almost a religious dropout, if you will. Yep. It's like a whole conference. So in saying that, Brandon, I would love for you to share your top 3 moments. Okay.
Yep. A common theme that spoke to me was this is the author I will look up, but she talked about repairing our imagination. Oh, it was Sarah Bessey, duh. And
was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have SB in my notes.
Okay. Yeah.
So Sarah was talking about when you deconstruct and you leave some of these places.
This was the first one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's starting to do work of like repairing her imagination and allowing herself to feel joy.
Yeah.
Around things that maybe she did before certain things opened her eyes to different things about the church, which we can identify with.
Kind of exchanging resentment with imagination.
Yes.
Like a joy.
Yep. And not letting like that be thrown out in the divorce between me and like religious institution.
Yeah.
And I thought that really spoke to me because like I've struggled to like I was telling you yesterday, like I used to feel like I could cry. Everything moved me. And now I'm like, I think I'm private crying more than I ever have. Like, and maybe even less of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to like sense myself and be like, am I becoming closed off because of the anger I felt in this past season? I mean, you guys know like the things I've lost, community wise, family wise, like that makes me mad. Yeah. Even if it doesn't always come off as mad. Sometimes it's passive aggressive or sarcastic. But, and then Brandy Miller followed it up with saying that she wanted to repair her earnestness. Mm-hmm. She said a quote that was very good.
I think I wrote it down too.
Shit.
That's so funny. I love that.
She said, I'll leave it for you then.
No. That wasn't my part. It is something she said, but it's not.
She said that old Brandy had something that I want back. And the way that she just claimed it, it was so powerful that I was like, oh.
She took her power back.
Old Brandon had something that I want back.
Yep, that's right.
In a way that like.
It was very empowering.
That's
very empowering.
Yeah, because I think as I've learned different things, it makes me like, gosh, I'll pass on all the church stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at the church community I had. Like, they're not in my life anymore. And I'm like, oh. Old Brandon trusted people in a way that I want back. Like, and maybe that's not actually the thing. That's maybe some of it. But like, I think I'm going to have to dwell on that question for a long time and saying to myself, Brandon, what are some things that you want back that,
and I think for you guys,
you miss about yourself?
And I think for you guys listening, like, that's a beautiful question that we all should kind of take space in this episode, or maybe in the next week or two or day or two, to meditate on, like, what do you want back from who you were in your church community before it went to shit? Mm-hmm. And in whatever way that looks like, you know, if it's, I want the way I worship back. I want, like Brandon said, I want the trust I had. I want to trust people that way again. I want that back. I want the joy or the naive, like, you know, the imagination piece we were just talking about. I want to imagine again. I want to dream again. So I don't know, but I think on the wise words of Brandy Miller, to follow up that second thing you said, I think it's something we all could be meditating on with you. So anyway, that
was one of my three.
Yeah,
but I don't know about you.
So your Sarah Bessey imagination, and then Brandy Miller, and then what's your third one?
Oh, that was one because it was a similar thought.
Oh, okay, I'll do mine because mine are super fast. So I'll do my two, and then you can do your last one. So the first thing that I thought really spoke to me was Brandy Miller, who Brandon was just talking about. Also, she said, I lose nothing in allowing others to be fully themselves. And I just think that's so beautiful for you guys. And for me too, it was so impactful to hear someone just speak those words over me and remind me that, like, I lose nothing in allowing other people to fully be themselves and who they are, but also reminding that about other people to me. Cause I feel like sometimes I get afraid to be authentically myself because I get worried, like, and it's not pie, right? Like, we all get to be exactly who we are as we are. And so that moment for me of her saying that, I lose nothing in allowing others to be fully themselves, I felt freedom in a lot of ways with that. And then another moment for me that was really big was when we had a speaker that we actually took a picture with. So I'm really excited because we'll share that picture, and we'll share, she contributed to a book, and she was just a really great, I think her Instagram is called like Hood and Holy, like, come on, of course. So, but she said, she told this story, and she said that I have this image of Jesus. When I think about Jesus, I have this reoccurring dream. And she said the dream is that Jesus is walking through the forest and she's following him, like right on his, on the hem of his garment, basically right next to him. And he keeps looking back to make sure I'm still there. And I don't know if that imagery affects you the way it affected me, even just now sharing it with you. I mean, but the imagery, especially coming from a dad, my biological dad, who has not spoken to me in probably a year or so, doesn't talk to me, doesn't authentically love me or support me. Not having that, I don't have a dad that looks back, but I have a God that does. And so for me, with my daddy issues and some of the complexity that comes with who I am as a person, that was really beautiful to me, that moment. So third thing.
I really liked the Lord's Prayer when we closed out.
Because we closed out with like a church service.
Yeah. And after hearing all of these different stories, and you guys, we heard from probably 20 different diverse voices and perspectives.
So much diversity.
And we've never seen that in a Christian conference that we've, out of the years we've been to them. And to be in that room and to realize the blessing of hearing all of these, when we were saying the Lord's Prayer together in community, I was like in tears thinking of like, this is the hardest Lord's Prayer I've ever had to say, because my voice is choking up. Yeah. Because to say like thy kingdom come, when you're in a room like this, hearing the stories like this of people that it's cost them to have their faith, like, and then to say like, to lean on that community and those sacred words was like very hard for me. Yeah. So I might have got through like half of it verbally. Yeah. Even though I said it all in spirit, but I'm like, I'm choking up like bad. So that was a big deal. It was a moment. Yeah. That church service I thought was really beautiful. I mean, any church service where your preacher is Nadia Bowles-Weber, I mean, come on, but really the whole thing was really beautiful and well put together. And then I have a last one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you have another one too? Yeah, my third one. You go with your third. My good feeling. I'll go with the last one. My last one would be my favorite. We're doing our favorite moments. If you, for some reason, forgot what we're talking about. That's right. And this is my third favorite moment was, there was a speaker that said, the grief that our old theology cannot contain our whole selves. And she was referencing like the grief and the pain that we feel by having to let go of our old theology because it couldn't carry all of who we are. Yeah. And the whole conference, what kept choking me up so much more than anything else is that like in this last year, I've publicly came out in my identity as a part of the LGBTQ plus community. And it has been so hard in ways that I've never shared really maybe on this podcast, in ways that I probably have never shared with even you. Yeah. And when I sit in spaces like we did this weekend and hear speakers say like, name my grief by name, like so personally, like that is literally exactly what my grief is. It's that my old theology couldn't handle me, that it couldn't hold me. Right. And to lose that is so gut wrenching. So that was one of my favorite moments because I felt so seen, you know? So my third one, one of the we got to have our book signed by Nadia Bowles-Weber. Oh my God, so cool. And I guess what was that moment kind of caught me off guard, and I got to have I brought Wholehearted Faith, Rachel Held Evans' last book that was incomplete when she was passing, but Jeff Chu finished it, and I listened to the book after I read about half of it. And to have like Nadia, I told her like Rachel meant a lot to me, and your friendship meant a lot to me. So Nadia wrote it with love from Rachel. For Rachel. And that just caught me. That caught me in a way that like I don't know if I can fully like share like why it caught me, but I just think that was such a special moment. Yeah, it was beautiful. Oh, for sure. And that was a huge blessing too, getting to have our book signed by Nadia Bowles-Weber. And that might not mean anything to you, and that's totally cool. But Nadia Bowles-Weber for me was the first pastor I ever saw say a cuss word from the stage. Yep. She was the first pastor I saw that had tattoos and like
showed them off with her collar, like in a sleeveless vest, like, you know? So for me, it was just she's a really transformative person in my faith. Right. So that was really cool. Those were great moments.
Yeah. And her friendship with Rachel was just so cool because of their contrast. And
definitely
Rachel was, for me, one of the first books that I read that really threw me.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yep.
Which you guys, if you've listened to some of our stories,
you already know. Yeah. Yep. No, for sure. And it's funny because we talked about these writers and theologians and people that like we got to meet and spend time with this weekend. We've talked about them for, you know, several episodes on the podcast in the beginning when we were telling you guys, like, what are we listening to? What are we reading? Like, so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to it just feels a little more full circle that we got to be in those spaces this weekend. So.
We'll have to put that episode in the show notes.
Yeah.
I'll look back. And
for sure. The book recommendations. Yeah. So pop culture moment, you know, I did not expect to get the messages I got about Love is Blind, but Brandon and I are not caught up. So like you guys, we're not saying a word about that, but it was so cool to see how much you guys enjoyed that pop culture moment. Like that was so funny of just us talking about Love is Blind. But so we thought this week we have a pop culture thought that we had. And it is the Golden Bachelor, you guys. Is anyone watching it?
Gerry with 2 G's or 2 R's. One of those.
2 Y's? Unclear. He does have double letters in his name somewhere.
It's a double R,
Seems ridiculous, honestly. But I would never say a bad word.
Is it Gerry?
Oh. I don't know, but I can't say a bad word about him. I love him. He's the dad I never really had. You know what I mean? Like, he is just a dream.
It's like Gerry with a G, isn't it? Here's why I'm unclear, because I've watched Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And if you've watched Parks and Rec, you know that there's a Gerry, Larry, Terry, Gerry.
Yeah, don't watch it. But
that his name changes almost every season.
So Golden Bachelor, literally, I was like, okay, should I watch this? In the first 5 minutes, I was sobbing. And I cried the whole time. The whole time.
Why?
What? It is so, there's no way. It is the most beautiful, devastating show ever. I just couldn't believe it. It was the saddest thing in my life to see all these women that are like so desperate and so like, this is their last hope. That's how they feel. And that's like so sad. So I was sobbing about that. And then I was sobbing about this man who like so candidly was like sobbing about losing the love of his life. Like it was devastating. So it was just a constant cry fest. It was so
that has
sad.
Been a little sweet. The intentional dating that you have when you're at that stage of life.
Yeah, just so emotional.
They've been cute. I mean, a little cringe. Like when they're dancing at the end of the episode 1, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know, yeah.
And if you watch regular Bachelor, then like, you know, it has similar flavors, but it's totally different. So it's like, and luckily they're short and sweet though.
Yeah. And I'll interrupt by saying, I don't watch The Bachelor. Haven't seen it in probably 15 years.
So the Golden Bachelor brought you in?
Yeah. That I watched The Bachelor like one time when I was like, I'm 32 years old now. Probably when I was like 24. Like, I don't know how long it's been going on, but like a long, long, long time ago. I watched like one season. Never, ever watched it again. I'm just not my thing. But then I watched a couple episodes, like maybe one or so of Pilot Pete. And that was like a whole nother thing. But that's it. I haven't seen it. So Golden Bachelor was like, it brought me back into to thinking that maybe this show is not as terrible as I thought it was because Gary's just amazing.
It's pretty terrible. The producers win, basically. They do whatever they want for TV. And
yeah, good.
Like this last one, they put they did like the photo shoot day.
Wait, Golden Bachelor one?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it yet.
Oh, it's episode 2.
Oh, wait, I did see that. Keep going.
They do the photography shoots with Gerry.
Yeah. We'll just call him Gerry. That feels right.
And they put one dress is a wedding dress out of all the things.
Oh, and she's crying because her husband died.
And I'm like, producers, half of these women probably have that story. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know that dress means something to women that like...
Right. They knew what was up. They knew what was up. You're right.
But that was the sweetest of Gerry sitting with that girl.
Oh my God. He's so precious. I can't. He's so
talking
precious.
through their grief together.
Yes.
And she said why the wedding dress caught her off guard.
Also why
that
I
was
cried,
very
though.
sweet. Yeah.
That's also why I cried because he's like to find somebody else that understands that level of trauma and grief, like, oh my God. Right. So yeah, it was a lot. It was just a lot. So, you know, I didn't know how necessarily this was going to go. You know, Brandon and I think have dreamed about this podcast forever, for a very, very long time. And so I don't know that we really had a clue when we set out, like how much of you were going to care, like how many of you were going to be invested in us and believe in us and care about this podcast. I think we've been caught off guard by how many of you message us or, you know, get a hold of us and share your stories or tell us how much you love the podcast, or how many of you reach out and tell us that you shared it with someone that was going through some stuff. And like, it just means the world to us. And, so we've made some decisions about the future. And Brandon, I'd love for you to kind of talk about that just a little bit.
Well, the podcast isn't ending because that felt like
I know I was going to leave you guys with that.
That felt like one of those cliffhanger type
I was going to leave you with that for a minute, but Brandon followed that up so fast. Yeah, I was just hoping you guys.
Because it made me nervous. I'm like, is Chelsea breaking up with me as a friend? Like as a podcast co-host? I don't get it.
Well, now that you guys have been through that trauma with us, what's really going on?
What's going on?
We're giving away a pizza. Just kidding. It's better. Okay.
Psych. We are going to close down for the holidays after episode 25.
Office hours shut down, man.
Office hours shut down. We have felt like we really want some time to work out some formatting things, to restructure some things.
Yeah. Bring you some new segments.
Also be able to focus on that, but also focus on our families during the holidays.
Yeah.
So,
and I think focus on better episodes for you. Like
100%.
We can't get better with constant writing. Like we've got to have a break from that. So that's a big part too. But
yeah. So what we're doing is we're going to end season 1 at 25 episodes. You might catch a surprise episode while we're going.
Like SpongeBob Christmas edition. You know what I mean? Religious dropouts will get you right.
You know, how could we not talk about the holidays and how hard they are for people that have left their faith? So we will go there.
Maybe we'll even get a church that will lend us their like space to record in.
That'd be so cool.
For a holiday episode. Yeah. Like we're doing it. We're gonna find one.
Christmas
is that you? Yeah. Oh yeah. We got you.
But then we thought in January we would pick up on what we're going to call season 2.
2024.
We'll do a few things strategically to make our podcast better.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We hope to be able to expand our technology a little bit to where we can have guests. Mm-hmm. But we have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think if you're still with us at this point at episode 23, you know, we would really love some support in some areas of our podcast. And I'm not going to name all those because it's just too long and whatever. But if you're interested in helping in any way, like we are a very small but mighty team. And honestly, like it's just so fun to be a part of something in these beginning stages. And so for season 2, like we would love someone who could manage social media. We would love someone who could help with, you know, trailer videos. Like we'd love someone that can help with like our website. So just know that there are like, we would love for you to be kind of a part of this little family that we got going on if you're interested. So, but what I did say to Brandon was, as we get ready to wrap up season 1, it would be cool to share with you what was like one word. And I hope we can put this maybe as a Spotify poll or something, or on Instagram or whatever for you guys. Cause I'd love to hear
that'd be so cool.
Yeah. I'd love to hear your responses too.
Yeah, me too.
But I asked Brandon, you know, what's one word that you feel like episode 1 left you with? Like, how would you define our first season of this podcast?
My word that I thought for season 1 was voice. I thought, I think looking back, I in kind of the goals we had started with, we said like when we get to episode 10, then we'll start to include like guests and stuff like that. But then we just had to keep rolling. Like we just, and I really felt like it was important that we established our voice and our flow together. Mm-hmm. Even though we're friends and we talk all the time about all the things, like when we make a podcast and mics are on, they're recording, somehow it feels weird.
It can be different. Yeah.
So it was really important to me that we find that. And I think we had a couple key like breakthrough moments in our podcast that was like, oh, I think that's the flow.
Yeah.
I think that's the one. So now it'd be really great to take that pause, reevaluate, and then we'll be able to listen to and be like, oh, it was 6 that brought us that. And 12 that I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. My one word that I kind of chose was angry. And I think that might not make sense to everybody, but for me, you know, when I look back at a lot of season 1, it's really crazy because I can't believe how much I grew up in season 1. Like, it sounds so stupid and crazy to say that, but like in 3 episodes so far at the point when you're listening to this,
right?
At 23 episodes deep, I've grown like so much as a person and in my ability to tell the truth and my ability to keep integrity in times when we didn't want to keep integrity. Like, I just feel like we've grown so much, but in all of that growing, a lot of that growing has been from anger. And so I think season 1 for me was a season of a lot of anger and a lot of hurt. And so although it may not have always come across to you guys that way, right, that was really kind of my disposition in season 1 was just carrying a lot of anger.
Yeah. Wow. Which I think there's place for that. Like, I hope, I know a lot of people will be like, oh, anger is so bad. You would never want it. Yeah. But like, regardless of if we want it or not, we have it. So like,
and it's shown me some things. So
what I'd love to see in season 2, I think we're gonna give you 3 words by the time the podcast ends, and a word that has kind of brought it in. Wow, a word that has brought to me. A word that's came to me is identity for season 2, because I think there's certain things about like our polish or our branding that I'd like to be tighter. But as far as our podcast format, I would love for it to just feel consistent every week. I'd like to feel like that identity is something that people know what to expect when they come to our podcast.
Yeah, I love that.
And I feel like we've been a little bit of a wild card. Maybe you expect like a keyboard warrior every other episode at least, but we'd like to have a more consistent flow.
Yeah. So I do want to tell you guys, I found this drink, Pineapple Mango. It's from a company called You Betcha. And it's like really, really, really good. So I just want to tell you guys, I'm drinking commercial. That. And Brandon is drinking a Cherry Coke Zero. So I just want you to know, if you're not watching, sometimes you don't know what we got going on.
It's from a company called Coca-Cola.
So Brandon's season 1 word recap was voice. And then his 1 word for season 2 was identity. Yep. So I love that. I love the way you flowed those together. And that's cool. I wasn't as like creative as putting mine with such a good flow.
Well, who's to say? You might flow.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. But my word for season 2 is sacred. And it's interesting because I Googled the word because I thought I want to use the word sacred, but I don't necessarily want to use it in the term of like sanctification or like sacred in a very holy type of way. Like the thought I had for sacred was the exact definition that I found. And it was something sacred is holy, or it can be devoted to a religious ceremony, which is not what I wanted, right? I just told you that. Or it is something that's simply worthy of awe and respect. And I think for me, like my dream for season 2, my 1 word of being sacred would be that we create something in season 2 that's worthy of awe, that people listen and they feel encouraged and empowered and like they leave feeling in awe. And I don't want them to leave feeling in anger. Yeah. And I feel like there are a lot of episodes in season 1 that I can point back to where I know I left in anger, right, and hopefully so did you with some of the things we talk about, right? So, but season 2, I want a different breath. I want to go in from what we've experienced in our break and at this conference and in some of the podcast hosts that we talk to about advice and kind of encouragement. And I want to go in being really sacred for our community and for you guys. So,
well, and an interesting flip from the conversation, not only are we like going into like a second season, but Kate Bowler, we got to get her second book in this series that we've already looked at. We've already read on the podcast her first book like 2 or 3 times.
What was it called? Carrie, one of our listeners, Carrie Burba, she's amazing. She actually messaged us and she bought it and like loves it. But Brandon has recommended it before. And
it's amazing. It's like a coffee table book at our house. It's the lives we have, or the
yeah. I don't know what it's
on the front.
Oh, it is. Oh, I meant the old one. Okay, we can cut that. But yeah, so Brandon has read, and I think I've actually read too, from her first book. That's like, it reads like a devotional. You can pick up what you need when you need it. And so I thought that this was perfect because, like Brandon said, we got to get her second book before anybody else, because we attended this conference. And so, I found this, one of the pages that I thought was really cool because we just talked to you about taking a break, and the title for this meditation moment or prayer or whatever you want to do with it, as you will, is called A Blessing for a Good Pause. And I was just like, man, there's nothing more perfect maybe to close out this episode with than the reminder of a blessing for a good pause.
Right.
So anyways, it says, this is the moment I can feel it. It is the microsecond pause before the habitual override that sends me into motion again. Barreling ahead instead of paying attention to what my body is trying to tell me about its limitations, to what pulls on my mind, to your spirit's wisdom, so hard won. I'm here, now, in the blessed in-between, the transition phase that isn't anything just yet. It's a pivot point that would be a shame to waste again, with mindless scrolling or what is happening in the news. Right. Stop. Stay. This is the sacred space of the nothing yet. A place where I can become aware that you are pulling at me, tugging at me. Be present with me right here in these whirring seconds at the tiny crossroads that is this moment, slowing me long enough to wander. Is that you tapping me on the shoulder? All right, I'm listening.
That's so good.
I just love it because that's exactly how we feel about this next season.
Yeah.
All right, we're listening.
Well, please don't forget that we have 24 and 25 still coming, so we're not cutting you off. But thank you for trusting us with the good pause to listen and to see where we head next. We love you so much.
Love you guys.
Hey fam, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Religious Dropouts podcast. We hope it gave you a space to breathe, to laugh, and connect. It's our hope that as you journey along with us, that you too might find yourself saying, damn, it feels good to be a dropout. Be sure to check out our show notes for links to anything mentioned in this episode, including ways to connect with us on social media. We'd also love for you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone you know who might want to join our community. You are loved. Have a great week.